Good evening, everybody, and welcome to our virtual wine tasting here at the Culinary Institute. I am going to be your host this evening. I am Sara Roberts, and I'm the wine manager out in Kerrville. And joining me this evening is our chef, Scott, who's going to be our mediator right now.
Sara, you're awesome. Thanks so much for having me. I'm excited because we do this show live, which you know now.
Now I do.
We don't get to edit anything out, so I want to bring, we were chatting before this in our rehearsals, and you gave so much great information, and I want to try and make sure we get to all that information while you're educating everybody on wines. I'm ready.
Are you sure?
Yeah.
You're golden.
Let's do it.
All right. So folks, first up, we have our amazing kitchen and table glasses. We've got 4 different glasses. That way we don't mix up the wines, misconstruing the flavors within them. So we have wonderful crystal glasses, really affordable, amazing to work with, and our kitchen and table decanter. That one we'll come back to whenever we get to our reds. So,
let me ask you something real quick. While you're talking about kitchen table glasses, what do you think as a wine professional of our kitchen and table glasses? Do you recommend them? Do you like them?
I really do. So for me, I personally have the other set that match the decanter, the Bohemian Crystal. Honestly, don't try to ask me what the difference is because I don't know. But they're really good, economical, affordable, and thank goodness they are economical because your girl's already broken some at home. But
yeah,
hey,
that's
all good. Happens, right? It happens. So, everyone, first up is going to be our Jolie Foley Sauvignon Blanc out of the Loire Valley. And this little fun thing, one, needs to get opened up. And like any good wine manager, you always have a wine key somewhere hidden.
So I'm sorry, what is that? First of all, where do you get a wine key that cool? Is that a miniature wine bottle, Sara?
It is, in true wine fashion, it's got to come up with something corny. And this one says it's wine o'clock. So let's face it, it's wine o'clock. Right now, y'all, let's open these bottles up.
Unfortunately, we don't carry that at HEB. Those of you that are asking, you have to have an in-law buy you that.
All the way from Nassau, Bahamas. So,
that's awesome.
Sorry, not even I got to enjoy that. But anyway, so Jolie Foley is coming out of the Loire Valley of France. And unlike most Sauvignon Blancs, typically the ones from Marble, New Zealand, this one's going to be a little bit lighter and not as juicy. Though when you do open it, you can start smelling the beautiful cherries, the little bit of stone fruit in here, but that's okay.
Let me ask you a question. So you talked about, earlier we were talking about the difference in Sauvignon Blancs, and there is such a big difference in the different regions. So you said New Zealand, you said Loire Valley, and then California. Will you kind of walk the person like me that's the Sauvignon Blanc noob through some of the, what's the difference in kind of the regions for somebody that's looking to get into it?
So most Sauvignon Blancs are going to be coming out of Marble, New Zealand. And these Sauv Blancs tend to be heavy on the grapefruit notes or even fresh cut grass. Though all of them will be nice and bright, more acidic than what a Chardonnay is or even a Pinot Grigio. The growing region will make a difference within the grape. So take our Jolie Foley, for example. More mineral notes are found within here, lots of stone fruit with very subtle citrusy tones to it up front. Now, if you take the same grape and you go to Marble, New Zealand, you'll get your ruby grapefruit, that nice bitter rind to it with a little bit more grassy tones or even some passion fruit notes in there. Take that grape now to California, where you'll still have those nice citrus tones in there, but not as much grass. You'll get not as much minerality as well, but still crisp, acidic, pairs well with any sort of buttery dish like a salmon or, chicken Alfredo. Shout out to my kid.
So I like the way you described the French style of Sauvignon Blanc, because it is you get, the way you describe it, it sounds much more softer. Would that be a good word to describe
this one, for me, on my palate, was definitely a lot more muted compared to any sort of Sauv Blanc that I've had from California or New Zealand. But when you smell it, oh, it smells so good. So I always like to judge a wine based on the way it smells or the bouquet. So if it smells really good, I always say, hey, I need that as a candle. Because let's face it, when you like it, the way it smells, you want to smell it the rest of the day.
I see a side hustle for you coming with the high side hustle of all your wines that you
Right?
can taste your way through.
Let's do
Now,
it.
what's the perfect temperature for so like for those of us that are like what is the perfect temperature for like a Sauvignon Blanc? Are there a difference in Chardonnay? Like give us a little education
So when it
on
comes to
best.
serving, as you can see, we have them already chilled down in the ice buckets. But with whites, you want to have them down to about 47 degrees right before, because whenever it's too cold, it starts muting those notes within the wine and you don't get the full effect of what the winemaker wants you to have. That's why they do say, you know, have it at a certain temperature. But then again, who really likes hot wine? So there's also that.
Doesn't seem as refreshing hot.
It really isn't, but it still hits the spot.
I like it.
Anyway, so when you first start smelling it, I did say cherry at first. Yeah, no, I meant like cherry blossom, orange blossom, that kind of effect, not actual cherry. So anyway, but you do get some notes of white peach in here, very light, airy within the wine. Just really easy drinking. It goes down so well, and plus, look at this bottle. It is huge.
I was gonna say it's different than the other size of the bottles. That's not the same size, right?
No, so this little puppy is 1 liter and $11.98 on the shelf. Great value, delicious wine within it. I mean, you don't even
Killer
have to
value.
open up another bottle later.
You used a great, so being a wine professional for HEB, you use a lot of great adjectives to describe the wine. You took me through this all earlier, and there were so many great adjectives you were using. What does minerality mean, like in a wine? Like when you were just to taste it for somebody like that's me, that's new to Sauvignon Blanc.
So it's a little bit more professional than to say it tastes like dirt.
There you go. All right,
So
I'm into it.
the minerals within the dirt come through the vines and get transferred into the grape, and whenever the grape gets processed and fermented out, then those notes come through within the juice. So, you know, it's a little bit classier than saying, oh, it tastes like dirt.
I like that. It's a good
So,
adjective.
let's face it.
I want it less when you say it tastes like dirt, and want it more when you
But
say it has a
there's a great
minerality to it.
minerality. It's very crisp
Very good
and
word.
clean. Exactly.
All right, we got a question from Callie Grant, Sarah. It says, is Sauvignon Blanc a good choice for brunch? Is it better than a Pinot Grigio, for example?
It does depend on whatever you're eating. So, I mean, if you're going to do a nice kind of change instead of doing a mimosa, I would recommend doing a Sauv Blanc just because it already has those citrus tones to it and will just enhance it all. Like you could do, instead of orange juice, grapefruit juice with it. 2 for 1.
There you go. Awesome.
So, but that is our Jolie Foley, and you can find this at HEB, though not out in Kerrville, not yet. Oh, sorry guys. Just smack the mic, my bad.
That's all right. We talk about so that's obviously a bigger bottle of wine. So if you, so say you're either single or you have just you and your spouse, how long is it okay to store that to drink it safely without it turning into let's say vinegar?
So let's see. If you're just gonna have the 1 glass, that'll last you about 4 days. Just put the cork back in, put it in your fridge, you'll be set. Just as soon as it starts getting down to here, you might want to make it a priority to finish it, just because the oxidation within the wine will change the flavor and it won't be as good as it was before.
So 4 days is a good.
4 days for your whites, 3s for your reds, just because the reds will start changing a lot faster. But if you're getting tired of all of that, throw it with some frozen fruit. We've got these great Central Market tropical frozen fruit blends. Throw that in there, call it a sangria, and you're done.
Boom. I
Check.
like that.
So,
Good advice.
Easy fix, easy drain. Now, next up is one of my favorite little buys, and it is our Lightly Chardonnay. So with the new year, new you kind of thing, let's face it, everyone says it.
Yep.
This one will help you keep to it. So Lightly Chardonnay only has 85 calories per serving, granted only 5 ounces, but let's face it. 0 sugar and 9% alcohol by volume. So you still get the alcohol to it without feeling so guilty about the sugar and the calories.
So when you first introduced this, you said 0 sugar, and I was like, Sarah, I'm out. I'm out. I don't want it. It's like a
Done.
diet. It's a
Move
diet
it.
Chardonnay. It's a diet wine. I don't want it. But because you talked to me, and I want you to describe it the same way you did to me earlier. It's malolactic fermentation. Go ahead. I'll let you do your. I now want to try this wine because of the way you describe it.
So now you do? You believe me? Well, I try to lead an active lifestyle, and so I look for more of these kinds of wines. I honestly didn't think it was going to be a good idea, but hey, it actually is if you like a buttery Chardonnay without it being too butter bomb. So twist off, and a lot of companies are going to twist off just because they don't want to pay for corks. And with corks, you also run the risk of cork taint, which cork failing, getting air into the wine, changing the flavor, not making it ideal.
Will you help demystify the whole myth, or like, I guess myth bust? I'd like to buy a vowel, please. Myth bust the whole cork versus screw top. Does it mean that there's less value to the wine if there's a screw top, or is it?
No, not necessarily. So with that, a lot of people love popping the corks just for the romanticism behind it. You know, this is just really easy. So for all my people out in Kerrville who are a little bit more on the retired side and their hands tend to hurt at the end of the day, it's a little bit easier for them to crack open some wine.
Or if they don't have that fancy cork
yes,
opener.
Yes, if they don't have a really cool cork opener from Bahamas. So the lightly Chardonnay, you can see it is going to be a little bit darker than the Sauvignon Blanc. So you get that oak coming through it. We'll have just a little bit on the buttery side, but up front. Then on the finish, you get more of the tropical tones and the cantaloupe, hence the wonderful pairing of cantaloupe with the lightly. Or if you want to just call it an easy night, like me, and bring out your adult Lunchable, pair it with that, throw it with some brie.
AKA the charcuterie board.
That's how you pronounce it?
My favorite. Yeah. Well, adult Lunchable is even better. I like the way you said it better.
I was like, that word's $2 too expensive for me.
So when you describe, so like people hear, like again, like we talk about the adjectives to describe wine. Will you tell folks, because you say butter bomb, you say butter in a wine, people go, you like drink, is it like melted butter? Is it like, but there is like, what is it that what would you classify it as? Why is it a butter bomb? Like what is it that makes a wine?
So wine, for the mouthfeel, like with the Sauvignon Blanc, it was a lot brighter, crisper, lighter within your mouth. The Chardonnay, however, is a little bit more mellow, so it covers your palate, covers your mouth a little bit better than what the Sauv Blanc does. And I mean, swirling it around, smelling it, you can easily smell the oak to it, so you know, okay, there's that malolactic fermentation going on. But it does have more of a vanilla finish to it, aside from the cantaloupe that's found within it. So I really liked it. It goes great with grilled chicken, salmon, I mean, pretty much
Absolutely,
anything.
and zero sugar. So I had given up my New Year's resolution, Sarah, and now I have found a wine with zero sugar so I can go back on it and not feel as guilty about drinking.
Exactly, and if you're not a fan of Chardonnay, they do have a lightly Sauvignon Blanc and a lightly Pinot Noir.
Both are zero sugar.
Both are zero sugar, low ABV, so your alcohol by volume is on that easier side. Really nice, mellow, kind of easy drinking wine.
I love it. Now, what's the price of the lightly Chardonnay?
So when I left my store, it was on sale for $11.98. I think it's normally sitting about $12.98.
Still, that's like for
I
a
mean,
weekday?
pretty reasonable for more wine craft kind of stuff now.
Zero sugar? Absolutely.
Zero sugar, low carb, all kinds of fun stuff. So active lifestyle, you don't want to give up your wine, you don't have to.
I love that.
Right? It's really easy. Okay, so moving on to our reds, we have Tableau out of Paso Robles. So Tableau, fun fact, is owned by the Wagner family. And do you know who the Wagner family is?
Will you tell me? Because I, number one, love to hear the story, but number two, for those that don't know who the Wagner family is, it's kind of a cool story.
So the Wagner family is very infamous within the winemaking community and just wine drinking community to begin with. They are very well known for Camus, who Charles Wagner, that is daddy, does that. Joe Wagner does Copper Canes, who is son. And I don't know the daughter's name that does Amolo.
That's okay, I don't either.
I was like, I just knew that they were all together. So very well known. They're great at making wine. And this one is kind of, I guess you could say, a baby Camus. Very fruit forward, very smooth. But for me, it wasn't as big of a body as what Camus is. So Camus has those black plum, those darker tones to it, little black cherry in there. This one has more red fruit. So more red cherry with a little bit of red plum, but tannins to me were pretty much nil. Like so smooth, went down very easily.
And you said this is a great like introduction wine if you're kind of like, as you're kind of maturing in your wine flavor. It's a great one. You said it's a great one to go from, which grape did you say was a great one to go?
So from Pinot Noir, like take Mayomi for example, that was an X for the Wagner family. So that one was very fruit forward, lighter in body, you know, #1 Pinot Noir. This one would be great if you want to start moving out of that and expanding yourself. And fun fact, this one would go great with some pork chops.
Yeah?
Yeah.
I like that.
Pork chops.
Meal planning.
and-
Now you're meal planning, Sarah. I like it.
I know. Well, hey, you got to get the wine first and then figure out everything else.
I
Most
like
people
it.
do it the opposite way, but no, I can't.
Giovanna has a question for you.
Ooh.
And then will you elaborate on this because she makes a great point. Does HEB carry Camus? And will you describe what Camus is?
So we do carry Camus. Granted, it does depend on what store you go to, but if you come out to Kerrville, I've got it. And Camus is a Napa Valley Cabernet. Cabernet Sauvignon. They do have a special select, which is a little bit higher, another $100, compared to the normal Camus. But everybody knows Camus within any kind of restaurant industry, hospitality industry. I found it on a cruise ship once, so hey, it's everywhere.
And it's not cheap, right? It's like usually, what does it
No.
go for a bottle, would you say?
It can go for about $72, so I've even seen it at almost 90. So
Wow.
it's pretty expensive. So if you don't really want to spend $70, $80 on Camus, you can still have a really good Wagner family wine for dinner.
And you also made a point about not only is it good with your pork chop, with your raspberry sauce, which you so aptly described, but then it's also like you also like to do it with your chocolate. Would you describe?
Yes. So I'm not a big sweets person. Anybody can tell you that. But this with some dark chocolate raspberry, oh Malanta, is so good. I'm done after that. Like, if you can even hold on to this after dinner, save some for dessert for that, you'll thank me.
So no judgment on me, right, Sarah? But I'm going to go ahead now. So I'm going to have it for dinner, and then I'm also going to pour myself another glass because I'm going to have it with my chocolate, so I can have that. What's the chemicals in chocolate that make your brain? You're all happy. So you have the wine, and
Serotonin?
then it's like a double dose.
Yeah, there you go.
I'm
Just
no
do it
doctor,
all.
but
Well, as long as you don't decant it, because if you decant it, then it just opens up too much and you don't get the same flavor as
Yes.
before. So there's that.
And you started talking about oxidization, and you are going to take us through oxidization because I think it's a really cool fact, and I was really interested to learn this.
So with most reds, you do want to let them breathe, especially when they're the bigger body, the fuller, the richer kind. This one, you probably don't really need to let it decant just because it's a little bit more on the medium body side. Now, when we get to rare, that one, either you let it breathe or you do decant it. So let's go ahead and pour this out. So
Sarah, you are going to have to buy everybody on the call, on the Zoom, one of those fancy wine openers, because now I want to have one every time I see you open the bottle with it, because it's like this mini wine bottle. I'm like, why does she have a mini wine bottle in her hand? Oh,
hey,
wait.
you know, it's all just for a good time. That's it. But as you can see, it is a gorgeous color. I mean, beautiful violet, and you don't even get that much oak on it. And it honestly smells like cherries, just bright red cherries that you'd find in your produce department. So do this with some of that fresh fruit left over from your charcuterie. No, how do you say it?
Adult lunchable, I think you
Adult
called it?
lunchable, we'll just go with that. So eat some of that with it, and you'll still be good.
I love it. That is it's a really pretty color. It's a really
so
dark, rich
beautiful.
color.
Dark, rich, I mean, be great. Now, see, I'm getting hungry because I want that pork chop with the raspberry sauce on there and just, call me
I'm
a
having
day.
the opposite problem, Sarah. I'm getting thirsty because every time I'm smelling some of the wines up there, and I'm really. Will you walk us through? When you talk about, because when I normally would open a bottle of wine, I would think like, you know, obviously the wine bottles have a smaller opening. How long? Like if I just pop it open, I'm like, we'll give it 10 minutes to breathe. It's like that's not right? Like I screwed up what I'm trying to let it breathe. And I'm like thinking I'm all smart, and I'm like, nope, I'm actually ruining it. Will you talk a little about how long a wine needs to breathe?
So, if you have the restraint to do it, you can open it up and then start cooking. But if you're like me and you just don't, then you're gonna have to like make a compromise and open up another bottle later. So, when it does come to your bigger reds, you wanna let that breathe. You can just leave it there, leave it on the counter, and just go about your day, cooking, sprucing up, and then come back for it. Or you can take a shortcut and get your lovely decanter that you find at your H-E-B and pour it in there. 30 minutes later, you're ready to go.
Love it.
But-
so that is our K&T decanter, right?
Yes.
And you say you don't recommend the Tableau because you think it's very soft. It doesn't need that kind of...
For my palate, it disappointed because I was like, all right, Wagner family, let's do this. And I was expecting this really big, bold, rich, robust cab, and it fell a little flat.
It was soft. It was a delicate rose.
But hey, that's okay. Everybody's different. So people who like those more fruit-forward kind of wines, softer, want to transition out of Pinot Noir, this will be great for y'all.
It's just like you said, it's a great transition wine. That's a great tip. I love that.
It is. So we'll just move that one right over.
Sean said he's opening up a bottle, but he says, I think is that right, Sean? You only have Prosecco? And that's okay, right? There's nothing wrong with bubbles. You've said some great stuff about bubbles.
Love me some bubs. Don't get me started on bubbles. We'll save that for the next episode if that's a thing.
That's right.
So, but moving on to Rare Platinum. This was such a fun buy. I was not expecting this for the $13.98, $14.98 that it is on the shelf. And I'm sorry, Wagner. This got you beat.
Yeah, it's more, this is more what you wanted.
This is more along the lines of what I like.
All right, I like it.
So it's richer, it has more body to it, a little darker fruit in there. I mean, it hit all the notes that I wanted. Didn't really need to pair it with anything. I could just drink it. But
you could drink it. What I love about rich Cabernet, this is gonna sound terrible, but I love to have like those big Cabernets like that as like an appetizer.
you don't even need to do
like
the bubbles, just go straight to this.
It's just a warm up.
Right? So with your reds, you do want to chill those down to about 65 degrees, but if you're going to end up decanting it, I would recommend chilling it just a little bit further. That way, when you do serve it, it's already warmed up for your 65 degrees. So
we have a great question, and we talked about this, and you said this, and I love that you did, because I would do exactly what this person, an anonymous attendee asked, leftovers in a decanter, can you put it back in the bottle?
I wouldn't recommend it, hun. Just because, one, unless you got a funnel, that's a small hole.
Yeah.
But, they say if you do decant your wine, you already have that intention to finish it. So if you don't want to do that, you can always just pour some out into your glass and just start swirling it. Swirl, swirl, swirl like the Dickens, and then it'll be ready. Or you can always get an aerator for your wine bottle. Those just attach to it, and so it starts aerating it and let the excuse me. Lets
Never
the wine,
water.
I know, turning water into wine. Lets the wine aerate and oxidize right there.
So you wouldn't want to pour back in, because now that you've decanted it, you've added a lot of oxygen to it, and so you've kind of sped up the process of kind of it
Yes, so
degrading, right?
compared to it, there's a lot more surface area over here compared to the glass. It's gonna change the flavor big time. But if not, I mean, you can always swirl it around, give it some more time in the glass to oxidize and change the flavor to what the winemaker really does want you to taste. But if not, there's always ways around a decanter.
That's
You're
right.
fine.
We had a question from Alexandro, says, does H-E-B Kerrville sell that same decanter?
Yes, we do, in our fancy new store. So
Love it.
come on out. I'll walk you to it. It's fine.
I have another question from Andrew. What do you think of those vacuum seal things for wine bottles? The ones I think allow you to take a little bit and then seal it back up, if I'm understanding right.
So I've tried them, but apparently I really stink at using them. My Cooking Connection manager was the one who showed me them. They just don't last as long, because let's face it, I don't waste. I just drink it.
Yeah, I like that.
So there's
That'll
that.
work.
I mean, they're great in theory, don't get me wrong, but
We talked about, so you have two different wines, and I forgot to ask this, and forgive me. The Tableau is from Paso Robles, and the Rare Platinum is from...
North Coast.
So will you talk about, which I thought was really cool, what you talked about earlier, the difference in, you said, what is it called, the ADA? I'm going to butcher it.
AVA, the
AVA.
American
Oh, I was so
Viticulture
close.
Area.
I was
do
thinking the
believe.
American Dental Association. That was not even the same
I was like, we have
ballpark.
good teeth.
Will you talk about like what makes like so like we talk about Napa cabs, like big and bold, like what are the differences? Like, does the terrain really matter, or is it up to like the wine? Like, Talk us through that a little bit.
So yes and yes. It does depend on where the grapes are grown to give those nuances within the different wines. But it also takes the winemaker to enhance those grapes wherever they're grown from. So Napa, you get the diurnal shift. So you have a huge shift from daytime temperatures to nighttime temperatures. And that affects the grapes on the ripeness, their acidity, and all those other factors that go into fermentation, later go on into fermentation. And fun fact that we just found out, California has 139 AVAs. So not just Napa, not just Paso.
Jeez. That's growing regions, right? That's like the
Yeah,
different,
where
holy
the
cow.
wines grow, what their climates are, and all of that. I don't even know how many Texas has compared to that, but wow.
I don't think we have that many ADAs, the American Dental Association. I don't think those are even a part of it. So that's,
Right?
man, I'm so good at this. Talking about AVA. Oh, will you tell Andrew? Andrew wants to know what's an AVA? Great
So
question.
the
Andrew.
AVA is the American Viticulture Area. So that describes the growing area, the climate, the soil where the grapes are grown. So it can be maybe an acre of land, or it could be, this huge, vast area, but that is what those grapes are coming from. And you can tend to find those on the bottles at your store.
We have a question from Nadia. Can you rate today's wines from sweet to dry?
So based off of what they're all going to be classified as dry. However, because the fruit that comes out forwardly, that's what makes them fruit forward. So a lot of people, like for Tableau, to me that was sweet, but there's no residual sugar making it sweet like a Moscato or anything like that. Same thing with the Lightly. You get a lot of the fruit, but without the sugar. So there's a difference with biting, say, a ripe strawberry and then an unripe strawberry. The ripe one has all that sugar going on with it, and then the unripe, you get the flavor of the strawberry, but not the sugar.
I like that.
So.
It's really well done. Yeah, this is great. This is, as Sean said, Texas has 8 AVAs according to Google.
Woohoo!
There you go.
8. I just know of the Texas High Plains, so.
Sean,
You beat
how
me
many
on that one.
dentists, according to Google, are there?
I know, but thank you. I needed to
Now
know
I
that.
just want to know.
I know. You need to look that up.
This is awesome. I know we're going to keep the chat going. I know, so you can watch Sara over and over and over and over and over and over and over again on our YouTube channel. Once they put it all together in the coming weeks, you can watch us over again. So if you want to see the wines or do it, you are a total professional. You answered all my questions today, and you are a wealth of knowledge for everybody. If they have any other questions, please ask. Sara's here. And if you want to go see her at your store, would you also talk about your store and how many bottles and how long it would take you to drink every bottle at your store? This is a real true story.
So we just opened up the new store out in Kerrville. It is huge. It's about 114,000 square feet. And fun little fact about that store, taking away the beer part, it would take me about, over 5 years to drink one of each wine, high end to box wine. So if you guys want to help me out, then come on over. I'm out in Kerrville, but don't mind it.
I love that.
It's a great drive.
So Sara, what I'm hearing is you just need to get ambitious in your tackling of the bottle a night scenario.
I know.
And the liter bottles, you may have a little more trouble, but
Yeah, I got 3 days to finish it though.
That's right. Awesome.
But thanks everybody for joining us. I hope I answered all your questions and was slightly informative when it came to the wines, and I hope I didn't disappoint. But if you do like our virtual classes, we still have more going on, and we have Chef Scott tomorrow, right?
Yes.
Doing that. So just go to heb.com/classes to sign on up. And we hope to see you there.